In Opononi, we stayed the night with Chrissy and David, who we found through the New Zealand woofing website. We didn't have any time to do any woofing on this trip, but I really wanted to meet them and check out their macadamia nuts. In the morning, Chrissy showed us the macadamia trees and introduced us to Chief and Maverick on the way. Maverick was quite interested in the camera and microphone. Chrissy said the nuts would be ready to pick in June.
And the good thing about macadamias is that, like, if it really poured with rain in June, we'd just leave them, pick them in July or August or September. The other thing is that you don't have to worry about bruising or like with other fruit or things like that, because if you drop them on the floor, you can run over them with the tractor and still come and pick them up. They're really so hardy.
Before the nuts are sent to the processor to have the shells removed, they're put through a machine to take the husks off and then left to dry for a few months.
Put the nuts in there and they get rolled around and they get fired up the end here. We have it all set up so there's a tray here. And then the husks drop down to here. Then we take the good nuts from there and we lay them on big trays for a few months so that they all completely dry. And that's dried inside the nut as well. Because if we don't dry them for a long time, they have to go into a big dryer, and that's the electricity for that dryer makes the whole nut more expensive. So the more we can get them dried in our own, we just actually lay them out in the garage.
Chrissy was born in Auckland and grew up in Taupo, but has lived in the Hokianga for 28 years. She and David bought this property about 18 months ago.
We really wanted to buy a place with some flat land because the last place we were on was really hilly. We wanted to have a place close to the main road so that it wasn't up a dirt road, and the macadamias were like a bonus. Then we realised, oh, there's a lot of macadamia trees here, and we thought, well, that's nice to be growing something. So we thought it's a waste to have some food growing plants on your place and not utilise them. So we just got into it, and we're really happy that we have.
When we drove back through Opononi to head south, we saw some people setting up for a gig that we'd been to in Waihi Beach the week before. I think they were following us. We stopped at the Arai Te Uru Recreation Reserve to have a look at the view. It was a kiwi zone, but we didn't see any kiwi. Kiwi are pretty shy and usually nocturnal. This is the Hokianga Harbour, Te Hokianga Nui a Kupe. It was so beautiful, I felt like I was inside a postcard. A guy standing near me pointed out something in the water. He said it was an orca or a shark. It might have been a taniwha. The next stop was Labyrinth Woodworks and Maze. While we were checking out the puzzle museum and shop, a peacock snacked on the bugs that had landed on our motorhome. Louis, the puzzle man, taught me some magic.
Abracadabra in a clockwise way, yep.
Abracadabra. And he showed us lots of puzzles.
Like this is the latest one I bought. It's 30 moves to get inside. It was designed by a guy called Akio Kume. So I get my customers to say, oh, well, put some of your money in there. And they're all a bit wary because they realise they're going to lose their money. So we put it in the box. Okay. It's in there, right? Mm-hmm. Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay, you're right. I go to puzzle parties all over the world, and you make 100 puzzles and you give them away to other puzzle designers. And I got given this one in Prague by a guy who used to be a micro-engineer for NASA. Now, the object of these type of puzzles is to actually not pull it apart, but figure out how it was made. One I picked up in Japan recently is this one here. A tennis ball in the glass jar. Now, you might say, oh, they probably took the air out to squeeze it in there. Well, I asked the guy that, did you do that? And he said no. And if you feel that ball, it is a solid tennis ball. Now, how would you get that many threads through a needle? These come from Mongolia. You just put it on the floor, you give it a spin, and centrifugal force opens it. It's a 6-piece notch puzzle, but they are beautifully carved. Faces on each one. Bye bye. Next box. Cats, rune, and nuns. Okay, and then the fourth word is not a word. Okay, so what you got to do is you got to find 4-letter words with some of these cubes. La, 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 la.
Louis originally from the Netherlands. His family moved to Australia when he was 9 and he brought this puzzle with him. He started making puzzles in Australia when he was 19. He said he moved to New Zealand when he was 23 and 3.5 weeks later he arrived in the Hokianga. I asked him what he liked about this area.
Oh, everything. You know, like sort of, probably the most important thing is the community itself, it's the people. You know, we live with really good people. We know our neighbours. You know, we all got similar sort of aims and objectives in lives, you know, ideals. You know, we're all old hippies or young descendants of old hippies.
Louis also showed us the maze.
5 letters.
And he told us about another project he's working on.
A maze in a garden, amazing garden. When it's finished, it will have over 1 kilometre of track through here with giant puzzles. But it won't be ready for another 5 years or so.
We drove down through the Waipoa forest, the home of Tane Mahuta, the lord of the forest, and the biggest Kodi tree in the world. The day before, I asked Bill Matthews to tell me about Tane Mahuta. Bill's a guide for a local company that does tours in the Waipoa forest.
Mai te timatatanga ko te pō. Mai te pō ka puta ko te ao marama. In the beginning there was total darkness. The void, absolute darkness. New Zealand was a land of birds. Absolute darkness. Our 2 parents of creation, Papatua Nuku, Mother Earth, and Ranginui Sky Father, they were cuddled together in an eternal embrace. And within that embrace, their children, the trees, they were sick and tired of living in that world of darkness. So they all tried to separate our 2 parents of creation. But they all failed except for one, Tane Mahuta. With his 6 feet against his father, Ranginui, Sky Father. His big shoulders against his mother, Papatua Nuku, Mother Earth. Tane pushed and pushed and pushed, and all the children, the trees, they begged Tane to stop. But he ignored those cries and he continued to separate our 2 parents of creation, and holding them where they are today. And ultimately letting light in where light never entered before. Also creating that very important word, life.
Dargaville, we stopped at Caltex for some diesel. I like the bilingual sticker in the toilets. Horoia or Ringaringa. We drove through the town and found a cafe called blah blah blah. I wrote a postcard and sent it to England. Dargaville is famous for kumara, so we stopped to buy some, but unfortunately I discovered I didn't have any change. That night we stayed at a beach on the west coast, about 40 kilometres from the centre of Auckland, called Muriwai.